There is a new and disturbing trend of wives and girlfriends tracking their husbands or boyfriends with GPS trackers, inconspicuously hiding these trackers in their cars, in their clothing. First off, I saw a video of a woman sewing an AirTag into her husband's gym sneakers. So let's take a look at that.
All right, hold on 1 second. Let's pull this up here. The gym sneaker one first?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, here we go, guys. Perfectly rational behavior. It says, tracking my husband with AirTag. So she put it in the logo. If you're watching or if you're listening to the podcast, it's a Nike running shoe, and she sewed it into the label on the front.
Very intricately. He'll never know. He'll never find out.
I mean, I actually don't know about that. Like, you have to, like, pull the tag up. Like when you
He's gonna notice
when you put the shoes on, right? Like you pull the tag up to make sure that it's up all the way. He's gonna pull the right one, and it's gonna be completely squishy.
The experts know you hide it in the rubber sole, not the.
She learns to be a cobbler just to do this. So there it is. She's put it in there, perfectly normal. Or what's gonna happen is he's an obsessive runner, and he keeps track of like his stride length, and he's gonna notice that his left shoe is a little heavier.
Some of the comments say trust issues, probably divorced within 6 months. Here are 3 options. She's doing it for likes on social media and the husband knows, or she's obsessed, or her husband really did something to break her trust, so now she is tracking him. Another one said, if you need to do this, you married the wrong one. Get a divorce. If you can't trust your partner, it's time to move on.
That's literally a Chris Rock bit where he talks about getting caught cheating, and then says, if she says she wants to end it, run. Because by the time you get to the door, she's like, wait, let's work it out. And he says, what is working? And then basically goes, she's getting you a cell phone, a beeper, a pay. Like, she lists all the ways in which she's going to work to keep track of you forever. And that's in 1996. That was a lot harder than it is now. Well, now she just drops the AirTag into your shoe, and she knows where you are anytime, anywhere of any day.
Now, if your husband is up to any nefarious activities in public,
or wife,
a good Samaritan is going to be there to record him unbeknownst to him and post it for the world to see, and eventually you'll find out on your For You page. So from people airing out your personal dirty laundry.
Let's watch this video of the leaf.
Yeah, this is another option. It looks like a leaf, but it's actually a tracking device, and you attach it to your husband's car.
Well, he's going to get in trouble now because it's covering his license plate. Now you just want him to get in trouble.
I mean, there are other ones you can just put under the car and no one will know.
It immediately fell off, though.
Well, it's remote controlled. You can drop it wherever you want.
For what?
So as soon as she catches him doing something wrong, she hits the button so that he can't prove or find it later.
Yeah.
Makes no sense to me.
But I mean, I think that this is a growing conversation about location sharing, because a lot of people say this is far more common in Gen Z relationships where they have a stark lack of actual intimacy, but a corresponding neurosis and unhealthy attachment style, obsessiveness, possessiveness that has not been seen before. And it's seemingly the norm to have the Life 360 app, as one person in the chat mentioned, to location share with your significant other at all times.
Yeah, not even just that. Like, he leaves the house, she sees him on the Ring camera. Where the fuck you going?
Yeah, you've got the Ring cameras and your Alexa recording everything, and you've got the location sharing on.
And then people
times.
are like, why is everybody so uptight these days? Like, I think about it before. Like, so this is something that actually happens a lot. So technically, when I go out and skate, what I'm doing is technically illegal because I'm going to skate on private property, and I'm, if it was a very, very angry business owner, they could theoretically have you prosecuted. Now, that's never happened to me, and most of the time they just say, oh, you can't skate here, can you please leave? In varying levels of anger, right? Sometimes they're very polite, sometimes they're very mean, whatever. But very rarely do you go anywhere now to go skate where there isn't a security camera. that wasn't what it was like when we were skating in our early 20s. Like you could go to all sorts of businesses and you weren't like one of the things that I always used to joke about is like when we were filming video profiles, it's like I want the security camera angle for the section of me landing the trick from the security camera that's there at the business. But now, like you go to the average, business or office park and the rail out front has 4 cameras on it, 2 on each side. And and that extends outward to all of society now. You're always being watched in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's not just companies that are
No.
tracking your location.
It's
or
cameras on the backs of cars.
whatever. Mm-hmm.
One of my biggest
Dash cam.
One of my biggest pet peeves is when people, even if it's something embarrassing, when people film someone without their knowledge in public and then post it. I hate that.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
also a disturbing trend that
Like-
you see more and more.
If you wonder why people are so uptight and nobody feels like they can be themselves anymore and why people are on edge, it's because you live in a fishbowl now and you're being recorded 24/7. You can't get away with anything. And I'm not talking about illegal things. I'm like saying you can't act frivolously. You can't act
You
stupid.
definitely can't
You can't
dance in
even
public.
live. Yeah, my dog trainer said that he just had gotten into like a confrontation with a guy who was recording him with his dogs in a dog park off leash.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy was basically like, his dogs are trained very well, and when you have a dog that's done like bite work and stuff, like they're like a loaded weapon. So he was just letting the guy know, like, hey, don't let your dog
Yeah.
be left alone with my dogs. And so the guy takes out his phone and starts recording him.
Right.
And like, how do you be like?
This is
if
a
I didn't
weapon.
consent to you
This thing is a
recording to me-
weapon.
Yeah, but you have like no legal action against people who just record you
Yeah.
without your consent.
And the laws never
What do you
catch up to
do?
the technology. ever.
Right.
Right.
Also,
right.
Well,
somebody,
I just want to know first off, like, what your takes are on people location sharing. Is it always a sign of an unhealthy relationship, or is it sometimes fine?
It depends. It's a case by case thing. In my opinion, I think that your man should have your location at all times for safety. And if you're uncomfortable with that, what are you doing? I think it's weird to track your boyfriend though, because it's not for his safety. It's just to track him and know where he is, or husband, or whatever.
But what
That's
if,
my personal opinion.
what if there is a situation where he's, I don't know, he got in a car crash or something, you need to know where he is, right? Like there's always some situation you could come up with in your head that makes
Yeah.
it a necessity for safety. But
Yeah.
overall, it seems like people are using safety as the excuse when the reality
yeah,
is it's
I
just
know a certain
paranoia.
government that did that post 9/11. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, right?
And I saw that
Security.
some years back, GQ published an article by a woman talking about how location sharing is actually healthy for relationships. It's titled "Location Sharing is Caring When You're in a Relationship." She said, "Recently, I was at a bar with friends and someone asked when my boyfriend was going to show up. Instead of calling or texting, I opened Find My Friends, a GPS tracking app in which you can share and see contacts' locations. And my boyfriend's blue dot on the map showed he was 20 minutes away from us. My friend next to me watched the app, was appalled at this oversharing, but honestly, until then, I really hadn't considered that it might be creepy. In my defense, it wasn't like I forced a stranger to constantly share his whereabouts with me. When my boyfriend and I decided to exchange locations in our long-term relationship, we'd clocked several months. We considered the unique cocktail of my anxiety disorder and his frequent work trips and made the decision together. That's suggesting something that's far more about paranoia and not about safety.
It's already a neuroses if she's talking about her anxiety disorder.
Yeah, I frequently check the app to gauge when to meet him. He uses it to perfectly time cracking open a beer before I arrive at his house. We have nothing to hide and don't feel either party abuses the privilege. For others, I've learned location sharing oversteps healthy boundaries. So the
You know what it
excuse
is?
is that if you have nothing to hide,
It's literally exactly what every American citizen said right after 9/11 when
Yes.
they talked about the Patriot Act. Like, well, if you've got nothing to hide, you got nothing to worry about.
this is what happens when you get into a relationship with a TSA agent.
This becomes a discussion of fundamental rights, and obviously your relationship to the U.S. government is vastly different than your relationship to an intimate partner. But holy shit, if there isn't some parallels there.
Yeah. And I just feel like girls are more inclined to constantly check the app because they tend to be more neurotic. versus
Yes.
a guy isn't going to constantly
Maybe
check
guys
unless
should
he's
check
worried
more.
about you.
Maybe the guys should check more.
Why don't you care where I am at all times of the day?
See, that's even worse. That's even worse. She's like, look, I checked the map like 15 times a day. You didn't check at all. Do you not care where I am?
Yeah.
The hell is that?
It's kind of a recipe for disaster.
It's
in my
just,
mind.
it's like life is difficult. You know, making a relationship work, it's a lot of work, right? It's making a relationship happen is a lot of work. And to add unnecessary, hurdles that don't need to be there, especially with in a case of somebody with high anxiety, highly neurotic, it's asking for trouble. And I don't know.
Yeah, you don't want to know everything about your partner. Like that is like probably the best advice I've ever gotten. Also, I mean, if you're doing it without their consent behind their back,
Well, that's an even
you're the problem.
That's way different.
That's it. That's
Okay, yeah,
even,
just to clarify that. But like, even if
There's more nuance to the sharing about choosing to share them.
I don't think it's masculine for a man to say that I want you to have my location at all times. That's the issue.
Something that's a little bit weird to you about that.
I mean, why does
He's
he
like,
want
look,
me to have
if
it?
I get in a fiery car crash and die, I'm gonna need you to just suck it up. Because like,
Yeah, no, I mean, 10 years ago, that's what would happen.
I mean-
life is about like mystery to an extent, at least.
I mean, longer than 10 years ago now. This stuff's been going on at least that long.
Yeah.
It's totally different if we're talking about like tracking the location of your kids, obviously. Like that's totally different. Family members. But people are talking about this as essentially a rite of passage in any committed relationship these days. Like if you're not location sharing, then I guess your relationship is really built on a foundation of sand. And but in reality, it might just mean that you have more trust than the couple who is location sharing.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
But this is
right?
being
Like,
seen as a legitimate rite of passage, and I've seen it enough times that it seems like this is a uniquely Gen Z dating problem.
Is it weird for me to feel like there's like a difference between doing this while married and like somehow it feels less weird to do it while married than it does when you're just dating. Like if you're boyfriend and girlfriend, it's weird. If
I
you
think
get
that- yeah,
married,
I
there's
agree with
you
you.
know like, or if like you have kids now
Yeah.
I feel like there's room there to make it seem less insane. Like
Yeah.
now you're operating as a unit together and it just makes sense. Whereas when you're in the dating stage, it actually is about learning to trust one another and come together.
More importantly, big tech companies are tracking your location and your thoughts even constantly. So you should feel like your privacy is being invaded at all times.
Yeah.
If you give thought to that,
I would say this
aspect.
is always a bad idea because I feel like it will always end up being used as a point of neuroses once you could be, here's the thing, you could be having a fight about something completely different and this could just be a tipping point for that.
And why
down
were
the
you
line.
at the Denny's for 3 hours the other day? Who
It's
were
like
you
the-
talking to?
I sent you the video yesterday of Stormy G where she's like, well, remember when you looked in his phone, he had 5 numbers listed as mom?
Yeah.
Like, that's what it is. And it's,
Just adding fuel to the fire for future arguments.
whatever it is.
Yeah,
Anybody ever says this to me, I'm gonna be like, yeah, well, that's what people were saying when the government enacted the Patriot Act. So, who's the bad guy?
Yeah.
What do you
love
work
that
for the
keep
NSA?
referencing- Throwing it back to the Patriot Act.
It all comes back to the freedom fries.
Like,
it all
oh,
comes
what do you
back
work
to.
for the NSA? Is that what you do? Is that why you work so late? It's not, I think you're out cheating. I think you work for an immoral government. That's what it is.
It's not
Yeah.
about me.
I don't know. I don't know what to
What are
make
your
of
thoughts?
this. I feel like I'm against it, but I'm loath to text anyone. I don't really, I think phone calls and in person is always superior. The idea that you can just be reached at all times, it's kind of anxiety inducing rather than a measure that would make you feel more at peace. Knowing that you're being watched all the time, listened to all the time, that people are trying to reach you all the time is something that's going to disturb your peace, not the other way around.
Yeah, it's just going to add. It's exactly what I was saying. It's like people are more on edge. People are less calm and feel less at peace with their lives because of how much they're watched. And if it's something that's already as hard to master as a good relationship, you're just making it harder on yourselves.
The toxic girlfriend that says, oh, will you let Tim Cook location track you all the time, but not me? Do you like him more than me? Why don't you just marry him? Why don't you just marry Tim Cook? Why don't you just marry Mark Zuckerberg then?
That's exactly what it is.
But overall, I think it's probably just a fake milestone of commitment that Gen Z has attached an importance to because they're so fearful of commitment.
Yeah.
Like, that seems like what it is. When you graduate from the talking stage, that's when you start location sharing.
Oh, you location sharing on your dog, but not me?
Right.
They like won't label the relationship, but
Like,
they'll
why don't you
track
just-
each other.
Why don't you just chip each other? Just inject chips into your arms, and that would be less invasive.
There you go.
I don't know.
I think it's a bad idea. I think in general, somehow in my brain, you've been married for an extended period of time. If you got kids, now you want to make sure everybody's safe. That feels far less nefarious. If you're just dating, it just seems like a recipe
because there's
to
an
end in
actual
disaster.
commitment there. I almost feel like this is like a psychosis, and it's a symptom of the fact that most relationships nowadays are meaningless, and like so many relationships just come and go, and they're fleeting. People tend to date more nowadays and have more partners and failed relationships than in the past. And a marriage is like, okay, we've dated and we are committed to each other. So if I want to track you, you married me. So that's the psychosis you married, I guess.
Comes with the deal.
I think okay.
yeah.
Bad idea, but you're fine to track the kids. You can track the kids. Actually, what the thing is, okay, so I mentioned like there were tons of TV shows that did this about tracking their children and how it was like, oh, look at these parents of the new age trying to figure out how to raise their kids. It would actually be a more interesting episode if it was about a husband and a wife tracking each other.
Secretly.
Yeah.
Or
Like a
just-
Mr. and Mrs.
Or no,
Smith.
so what would happen is like, it's turned on automatically on your phone, and one of them realizes that it's turned on automatically, and then starts like that person goes someplace they don't normally go to. It's all a big misunderstanding. And then they try to turn it around on them. They're like, well, why were you tracking my phone? It's like, well, I didn't mean to track your phone. I just realized that we had the feature on here and I logged in and I couldn't stop looking. So then it ends up where they're both in the wrong. This guy lies about where he went. Maybe he was going to get an anniversary gift and he lied about where he was. You know, they could write a scene about that.
Yeah.
And it might actually be mildly thought-provoking, but that might be too much to ask of Hollywood writers.
Well, I'm generally on the same page with you, Brett, that I think it's weird. Unless you're married and have kids, I don't think there's really a necessity because if you really need to know where someone is, they should tell you.
I mean, if like in my situation, like if my boyfriend was like, I want to track you, I would say no. And I would probably not date that person. But me personally, I want
Okay, you have to be the one who brings it
like
up.
if you're the one who brings it up, it's not
Okay,
weird. But if your
okay.
boyfriend's enforcing it on you,
I see.
then yes, that's weird.
That's an important distinction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he's the one who brings it up, maybe that's a red flag.
Well, it's a sign of deep insecurity right off the bat.
Yeah.
Yeah. In most cases, like I would say, I mean, with rare exception, maybe it's out of care, but like I would err on the side of he is insecure.
Imagine
and-
both of them saying that though. So if a guy says like, look, I want to track your phone. I worry about you. I want to make sure you're safe. Or the girl says like, I track you because I care. Why do you have a problem with that?
It's funny because once you say it in the girl voice, it sounds crazy.
That's the point.
I track you because I care about you and your safety.
And he's like, look, it's a dangerous world out there. There's women getting attacked every day in the streets. I just need to know that you're safe. Now, depending on how wild-eyed you are when you make that statement, it could come across as perfectly caring, or it could come across as a dude who's going to chop you up and wear you as a skin suit. Like, totally depends.
And some women are into that.
There you go. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.